fast. Things cannot get worse really fast if people are operating rationally consistently.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect them.
Yeah, and
So this is what that's why I'm pressing upon this action plan that I suggested. In one way, you know.
there's nothing better than this, letting people know, educating them, because as someone said, he said that the worst oppression is not when you're put in prison. The worst oppression is when you think that there are no alternatives. When you are told that this is the way it is. This is the only economic system based on monopolies, interest, corporations, the way they run things. If this is we are racist. And people start to think that this is the way it is. They don't see that there's something else. And you're saying this is the worst kind of oppression, because then you're really, you've imprisoned yourself. So once you start to open people's minds, let them think in a universal, global, timeless way, which is what the prophets were doing, then you're educating them, you're breaking the chains from them. But I agree with everything you're saying, that it has to be context dependent. We have to look at history, use the best models we can.
Yeah, and devising a system of measurement is actually,
yeah.
just to push the point, it's very important, because one of the problems that the social sciences has compared to the physical sciences, which have obviously achieved a much higher degree of success, but the social sciences are also widely used, and in fact, I'm sure that the segments of the elite have very, very powerful think tanks when they're thinking about how to understand, how to relate to other segments of the society, and how people behave. But they do have systems where they're trying to be precise about trying to understand human behavior, and there's certain problems with that. But there's ways of at least improving the degree to which you can be precise, right? It's not the same, because you don't have the same system of measures that you have in physical sciences in the system of social sciences. But there are certain things that you can have to make things more analytical and consistent. Like just as when we're talking about the system of being able to rank different outcomes, what you can do then is you can assign an ordered set and say it's the difference between the ordinality of a measure versus the cardinality of a measure, right? I'm getting very specific, but it's something you'll understand. And so and this is how we rank well-being in, say, economics, right? So we'll say that we may not be able to say this outcome is twice as good as this outcome, like in the system of like natural numbers between 0 and 1. There's ranking, but there's also a defined measure. But within social phenomena, often there's not. You can't get systems of measuring distances between ranked outcomes, but you can get systems of ranked outcomes, and you can compare similar outcomes or outcomes that are close along some measure, and see how they're related causally to other phenomena, right? Yeah, the question of causality is a very difficult question in sciences as well. But so here's one. This sort of starting to think seriously about social phenomena in this way and scientifically is also getting to your question about rationality, because what happens is when people don't understand a certain set of empirical phenomena and they try and get quick answers, right? Because there's parts of your brain where when you don't understand things and there's an element of fear, then people will. So there's things where that probabilistically what they see is they might detect a threat, because there's a higher probability of certain events happening when you're associated with certain empirical phenomena, whether it's associated with people of a different color or a different race, and what happens is people misjudge these things. Sometimes they assign to empirical phenomena, they assign these essential qualities. So they'll say, well, those people are like that from birth, and making mistakes in assessing empirical phenomenon, and actually the prior beliefs that you bring to your particular structure can cause huge problems when you're empirically analyzing things, to the extent that certain rationalities, and I know you use the term rationality as an overarching sort of ideal, but the thing is, aside from the essence of what rationality is, as an observed phenomenon of people making claims of rationality, there are whole categories of claims of rationality, including entire academic movements like the eugenics movement, where they will take empirical data and they'll say, look at 99% of black people existing right now, whereas there's other unobserved factors that are correlated with their blackness that might be the determinative causal factor why there's more violence or why they're not able to read in a particular historical thing. And they'll make empirical claims that will have a pseudo-rational basis, but it'll be based on the fact that there's not enough, there's omitted variables, basically, in their analysis. Yeah, so what I'm saying, this is stuff that the scientific community understands very well, social scientific community understands very well. At the end of the day, though, normal people are actually trying to understand empirical phenomenon using models that they haven't actually spelled out, but these things are happening in their head. And they're taking, oh, another terrorist attack, oh, another
they're
thing.
being manipulated. That's what it was.
They are being manipulated, but there's a statistical basis for what they're doing. The thing is, they just don't have a refined understanding of what's going on. And
who doesn't have a refined?
The general population.
the people who
Yeah.
are trying to understand
Yeah.
things. But that's what I'm saying is that just having a rational understanding, there are, you can sort of come up with quote unquote rational understandings for what's going on that are very, very racist.
Yeah.
There's an entire rational basis for racism under some genetic models and concepts of evolution that can be justified.
But
you have to have a certain set of prior beliefs.
But it has to be, you see, the problem is that people do not look at the evidence. I'll give you a simple example. Now a lot of people are going to Europe from Syria. So there's a person who I thought he wasn't a white supremacist, but he turns out to be a white supremacist because he's saying that what they want to do is they want to wipe out, the Zionists and all that. They want to wipe out Europe by bringing in the brown people into Europe, wipe them out, right?
I've heard this.
But we, as Europeans, have a proud history. We are the most intelligent, and it's been scientifically proven that we are the most intelligent, right?
Exactly.
And that these other people, they are barbarians. And then he was giving examples of Pakistan. If you go there, this happens, So as if these things don't happen in their country. And then he's not looking at history, that the Europeans actually were total barbarians.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no such concept as Europe. They got science through the Muslims, right? Algebra, all these things. It's the Muslims who civilized Europe when they went to the Crusades. So he's not looking at. What I'm saying is that that people like that, then they can manipulate others and perhaps are also manipulated themselves, right? So it's a matter of looking at. It's not rational. It's not rational.
I think what also you said before as well. There are certain oddities within this framework, especially when the scientific community looks at things. For example, looking at the lineage or genetically, if X race is better than Y race or not. Again, I think chronically speaking, one also has to be wary about this in a sense that you have to keep that into perspective. That you have to be rational to yourself first before you can actually apply the rationality to, let's say, a given data, right? What I mean by that is that you have to be really honest with yourself. We all have biases, right? But at the same time, to a certain extent, you cannot completely eliminate a bias before you actually look at it, data presented to you. So you have to eliminate that bias first.
Yeah.
You have to be anti-bias, right? And then you can maybe perhaps approach the data rationally. That has objectively, which is obviously kind of ties into rationality. So that has to be a first step before we can actually further continue, looking at things more rationally.
Yeah.
And it kind of ties into evidence as well. Okay, Europeans are more advanced or more socialized than, let's say, other races, right? Quote unquote. Well, where's the evidence for that, right? So you can come up with rational concepts within that framework you're looking at, but at the same time it has to be supported by an evidence.
Yeah. Questions?
Yeah, I would say that you mentioned that they are seeing that minorities are going to be majority. Well, it's going to happen. Yeah, why they're seeing those words? Because this thing happened in the past. There were 52 people who came from England and traveled all the way to America. And that's what they call Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
And they were in minority. Majority was some other people at that time. And then minority came majority.
Well,
That's why it is.
actually,
It's just like I would say that if there are 2 people or 5 people are sitting in a room and they look like each other, and then 10 other people come who do not look like them,
Yeah.
so they are going to say, oh no, we are in minority and they are in majority.
Yeah, like
So-
I came across this article. There's a city in the UK where I think maybe Sean, you came across this article as well. It was recently where I think the city is majority Southeast Asians now, and so there's been some
Bradford.
Bradford or was
Bradford
it?
is
And
Bradford.
Southall.
Yeah, but there was,
That one is-
but it was in the article.
English,
so,
yeah.
so there's grumbling. Oh, what's happening?
It's called
and all
Bradistan.
that.
Some people call it Bradistan.
Now-
There's a
So one would grumble if they would feel that they're the keepers of this certain area where these human beings live, right? If you look at it as just a group of group of human beings living in the city on this part of this planet,
Yeah.
then
Plus,
what the hell? You wouldn't
Yeah.
even write an
Yeah.
article about
No,
it,
plus you can
right?
get great food because English food is terrible.
Right?
Unfortunately, that's not.
Yeah, so but what I'm saying, yeah, well, that's why we're here and we're trying to conduct these sessions here. but yeah.
Anyway,
Fish and chips are good.
yeah, that's true. That's the only thing. Shepherd's pie.
And also I think that we have to show moral actions. Even in our own society, what I mean by own society, the group of people, whoever start that thing, either Muslim or just from Pakistan or from any other Arab country, or that group have to show their actions. And then things are going to change. Like we were talking last time, and there was some people from here and Sharwat and let's go for Tabligh, right? So I said, okay, I'll go one day, but I'm not ready. He said, no, come and it's good thing and that thing. I said, but there are some other things also over there. All the words we have to see some action also. There are a lot of talks are going on, but there is no action. That's why. They also say the action speaks louder than the word. Let's say if I'll go outside right now, and I'll do something, any kind of mistake, or I could do intentionally, I'll block the parking, or driving or something. If someone is gonna look at me, they're gonna say, oh, some brown or so and so person. But if I'll have beard, I have a hat on my head, right? And wearing shalwar mean thobe or any kind of dress, which represent the Muslims, then people are gonna say, oh, it's the Muslim person.
Okay, Islamic.
Then I have to be more careful, I have more responsibility not to do those kind of things. And you guys have gone to Juma and also you have seen the Imam and Khatib says over there, brothers, please do not stand, because most of our masajid, they are in the area,
Residential area.
business areas,
Business.
houses around here. If they say when you finish your prayer, please go. And do not talk loudly. And do not block the parking lots. But where we are going to learn those things? It is in the khutbah. But we don't, some people say that people hear from this side and go out this side. But what I say, they hear from this side and go from this side.
Again, this
They
is
don't let it enter even.
yeah, this is one of the
Those are the small things we can show. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say this is one of the dilemmas of actually the modern society we live in now, that we believe less in action and more in talks and more in theory. And this also has to be blamed not mostly on ourselves, but at the same time we also get influenced by externalities as well. For example, I have a few examples to talk about. I'll give you an example of I'm not sure if you guys know about the sufficient lifestyle. So it's like a movement which kind of started in the mid 50s and 60s, in the hippie era, when people started getting more conscious about their environment. And what happens actually if you happen to, even on YouTube, for example, listen to one of these lectures, they're talking about self-sustainability, that we want to be dependent, we want to go off-grid, we want to be dependent solely on the solar power, and we're going to try to have, limit the waste to almost minimal, and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, you will notice actually in the audience and on the podium itself, we actually all cover it as well. They're actually having plastic bottles and they're drinking water out of that at the same time, and they're talking about self-sustainability. So again, it kind of just defeats the whole point. You have to live it before you preach it. We are not living what we are preaching. I totally get that. And the thing is, one has to admit and be open and actually honest and conscious about it, that fine, it is wrong, I have to work on it, but we cannot be blocking that. What we happens actually in this especially nowadays, is that we just block that off. Like, it just doesn't affect us personally, that's fine. We can drink 20 bottles, actually we should have not had the bottles here, but again, we are a culprit of that as well. I admit that as a mistake as well. At the same time, we were talking about the animal welfare rights, and Nadeem was talking about that Prophet was sent as a mercy to everyone, which includes obviously we are Khalifa of the earth. What that entails basically, you have to take care of the earth as well, not just your own beings. That means plastic bottles going into the system is taking about 100+ years to actually get recycled. This is all part of it, right? But we have to start thinking about these things, but we're not conscious about enough to actually start thinking about these things. But that's where we have to go. And apparently, non-Muslims are doing that more than us, right? You got the self-sustainability movement, self-sufficient lifestyle. It's all coming from non-Muslims, and it's actually the Muslims who should be doing that. Animal welfare, it's all non-Muslims. It's actually the Muslims that should be doing that. So they're supposed to be taking, apparently taking more care of. They have a better right of the caliphate than the Muslims, or the believer, I should say, not the Muslim, the submitters,
The so-called.
the so-called submitters.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Once I want to share just a small statement. Just small statements in that book, and that says that one day you pass in front of your home and think. Do not enter in your home. Just pass and think. Day is going to come when you are not going to be this home.
Absolutely.
That day, the people who are living in this home, how they are going to think about you and talk about you.
It's a legacy you leave behind.
That is your life.
Yeah,
Your legacy.
That is your life.
for sure.
Because today they know that you are going to come in and you are going to influence
Yeah.
on their decisions. But that day you are not going to be here. And still if they think about you, that is your life.
Yeah.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.